That was my outlet, my fantasy. Good things would happen because they always happen in the movie. And the manager just says, "What's going on here?" And this woman said, "She won't let us sit down. We want to go to sit down."
America grew up laughing because of her, but few knew the fire she kept hidden. For decades, Carol Burnett lit up living rooms, turning pain into punchlines and joy into an art form on The Carol Burnett Show. To her fans, she was endlessly warm, endlessly forgiving, a woman so kind it seemed impossible for her to carry bitterness in her heart. Then, in her 90s, she quietly pulled back the curtain, and what she revealed stunned everyone. There were men she never forgave, men who mocked her in front of others, belittled her behind closed doors, and attempted to claim credit for the very work that defined her career. So who were these figures lurking in the shadows of her success? And what could possibly drive a woman celebrated for grace and humor to hold on to anger for a lifetime? Stay with me, because this story takes a turn no one saw coming. Number 1. Marlon Brando, the legend who crossed a line he could never step back from. Carol Burnett was not a woman who held grudges easily, but this one she never let go. At the very top of her private never again list sat one name everyone recognizes: Marlon Brando. Yes, that Marlon Brando, the untouchable icon, the actor Hollywood worshipped, and yet he managed to hurt Carol so deeply that she refused to share the same space with him for the rest of her life. Whenever people hear this story, they all react the same way. Brando? What could he have possibly done? The truth is far worse than the whispers. It was the summer of 1972. The Godfather had just made Brando larger than life. Fame followed him everywhere, and so did his sense of power. One night, Carol was fast asleep at home when her housekeeper shook her awake. The phone had been ringing non-stop. Half awake, Carol picked up. On the other end was a slow, confident voice, almost amused. "Carol," this voice said, "this is Marlon Brando. I've been watching you." At first, she laughed. Hollywood loved pranks. Brando loved attention. She assumed it was someone doing an impression. Then he crossed the line. "You'd be even better," he added, "if you loosened up like the actresses I've spent time with." It wasn't praise. It wasn't harmless. It was the kind of comment a powerful man made when he believed no one would challenge him. Carol ended the call politely, but her hands were shaking when she hung up. She thought the moment was over. It wasn't. The next morning, a reporter from the Hollywood Reporter contacted her publicist. Brando, the reporter claimed, had spoken about Carol's femininity during a late-night call. Someone had leaked it. Carol was stunned, embarrassed, exposed. And then Brando made it worse. When a journalist later asked him about the rumor, he smirked and brushed it off. "She took it too seriously," he said. "Comedians are sensitive women." That was when Carol understood the truth. This wasn't admiration. This wasn't respect. She had been turned into a joke. 2 days later, she told a close friend something she never forgot. "I felt small, and I've spent my whole life fighting not to feel small." From that moment on, Carol set a firm rule with her team. If Brando is there, I'm not. She never broke it. Not once. Not for awards, not for prestige, not for 30 years. Some lines, once crossed, don't deserve forgiveness. Number 2. Cary Grant, the polished movie star who smiled in public and struck in private. His name shocks people when they hear it sits on Carol Burnett's never forget list. Hollywood saw him as flawless, perfect suits, smooth voice, manners that looked untouchable. But Carol carried a memory that shattered that image. One night, in one room full of power, he cut her down, and she never forgot. The moment came in 1968 at a Beverly Hilton gala. It was the kind of night filled with fake smiles and forced praise. Carol had just become America's favorite comedian. Cary Grant was the king of the evening, seated front and center, receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award like royalty. When the applause ended, Carol walked over to congratulate him. She felt calm, confident, and happy, unaware she was stepping into trouble. A director nearby tried to break the ice. With a grin, he said, "Cary, you've seen Carol's show, right? She's got the whole country laughing." Grant didn't pause. He smiled, leaned back, and spoke loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Laughing at what?" he said. "She just waves her arms and pulls faces. I don't get why anyone likes that." Carol stood still. She wasn't fragile. She'd faced critics before, but this was different. This was a legend mocking her talent in public. Still, she stayed composed. That was her strength. As she turned to leave, it got worse. Grant leaned toward Elizabeth Taylor and delivered the line that sealed everything. "She's not a real actress, just a housewife who got lucky." Cruelty wrapped in class. Carol didn't fight back. She didn't need to. Word of that moment spread through Hollywood and lingered for months. Later, she told a close friend, "I didn't mind that he didn't like my comedy. I hated that he chose to humiliate me." 2 years later, Paramount offered her a chance to star with Grant in a musical comedy. She said no without hesitation. Her team begged her to reconsider, calling it a career-defining role. Carol never changed her answer. She repeated the same 7 words every time. "I won't work with a man who belittles women." Grant never apologized, and Carol never forgave. Number 3. Lorne Michaels, the gatekeeper who froze Carol out for half a century. How did Carol Burnett and Lorne Michaels become rivals without ever sharing the same stage? The truth isn't polite, and it's definitely not about respect. Their fallout traces back to one sharp sentence Carol heard about him, and once it landed, she never let it go. The clock turns to 1975. Saturday Night Live is brand new. Carol is still dominating CBS with The Carol Burnett Show. Critics everywhere keep saying the same thing. If anyone should host SNL, it's Carol. But that idea never reached the cameras. It wasn't because Carol said no. It wasn't a schedule clash either. The real reason stayed locked inside a quiet room at NBC. During a pitch meeting for season 2, someone spoke up and said the obvious. What about Carol Burnett? That would be historic. Lorne reportedly leaned back, shook his head, and dropped a line that spread through the building like smoke. Not her. She's the face of old television. Over my dead body. Harsh? Without question. But he didn't stop there. A staffer later claimed he added, "Her style makes us look outdated. SNL isn't a retirement home." Those words reached Carol in days. She didn't lash out. She didn't call him. She didn't demand an apology. Instead, she went silent. Cold, deliberate silence. Later, in private, she summed it up simply. "I spent my life opening doors for women in comedy. He closed one without even meeting me." As the years passed, the tension only grew stranger. When NBC floated the idea of inviting Carol to SNL's 10th anniversary special, Lorne shut it down. He reportedly sent a handwritten note with 3 short verdicts. Not relevant, not funny, not happening. Carol never saw the note herself. She didn't need to. Hearing about it was enough. Then came 2023. When asked if she ever regretted not hosting SNL, Carol smiled and delivered her answer with calm precision. "They didn't need me, and I learned I didn't need them either." That wasn't bitterness, that was closure. And with that quiet final line, the door between them stayed shut, forever unopened. Number 4. Harvey Korman, the partner she trusted until one moment changed everything. Fourth on Carol Burnett's quiet list of painful betrayals is Harvey Korman. What makes the sting so deeply is simple. He was the last person she ever expected to hurt her. Viewers loved them together. Their timing felt effortless. Hollywood believed they shared an unbreakable bond. Carol believed it too. That belief shattered one afternoon in 1974 when Harvey showed a side of himself she had never seen before. It was an ordinary rehearsal day at Studio 33. Nothing dramatic. Petula Clark had just finished her segment. The crew was adjusting lights. Harvey was getting ready for a sketch he had performed countless times before. Then a small lighting error dimmed his spot. It was minor, but his reaction wasn't. Harvey slammed his script onto the floor and snapped at the crew. "How hard is it to get this right? I'm tired of fixing her mistakes." Carol heard every word. He wasn't upset about the lights. He was talking about her, his partner, his friend, the woman whose show had helped turn him into a star. The room froze. No one moved. Carol didn't explode. She didn't shout. She simply stood there, stunned. With quiet control, she walked toward him and asked gently, "Harvey, why would you talk to them like that?" Instead of stopping, he pushed harder. His voice rose, sharp with resentment. "Maybe I'm tired of being second on the Carol Burnett show." That single sentence hurt more than all the yelling combined. It revealed a jealousy Carol never knew existed. She said nothing else. She turned away, went to her dressing room, locked the door, and cried in silence. 3 days later, Harvey came back with an apology. "I forgot why I started doing comedy," he told her. Carol accepted it. Kindness had always come naturally to her. But later, she confided in Vicki Lawrence. Forgiving him didn't repair what broke. The show continued, the laughter stayed, but the friendship they once shared never truly returned. Number 5. Joe Hamilton, the husband who took what wasn't his. Fifth on Carol Burnett's list is the betrayal that hurt the most because it came from inside her own home. Joe Hamilton wasn't just her husband. To the public, he was her producer, her partner, the man helping her build one of the most loved shows in television history. Behind the scenes, though, he was quietly reshaping her legacy without her permission. The truth surfaced in 1982, long after their marriage had begun to fall apart. While reviewing legal documents, Carol's lawyer noticed something troubling. Joe had registered a new company called Hamilton Productions. Under that company, he listed spin-off ideas taken directly from sketches on The Carol Burnett Show. One title stood out immediately, Mama's Family, a show built entirely around Carol's most famous character. But there was a problem. Carol's name was nowhere on the paperwork. She wasn't listed as a creator, owner, or contributor. Thinking it had to be a mistake, Carol confronted Joe at their CBS office. She expected confusion, maybe even an apology. Instead, Joe didn't flinch. He leaned back, crossed his arms, and said something she would later repeat word for word. "You're the talent, I'm the brain. I handle the business." That wasn't just ego talking, it was the truth. Joe had been planning to secure his own future while claiming ownership of the work Carol had poured her life into. Later, Carol told Vicki Lawrence, "It felt like he took my heart and slapped a logo on it." But the worst moment was still ahead. Weeks later, Carol overheard 2 CBS employees whispering in a hallway. They talked about Joe's new life, dinners at the Showhouse restaurant with a much younger editor. The shock wasn't that he was cheating. It was learning the affair hadn't just started. It had been going on for years while she carried the weight of the show and their family alone. That night, Carol sat quietly at her dining room table and said the truth out loud to herself. "I don't recognize the man I married." The divorce followed soon after. Joe didn't let go easily. He fought hard for control and profits from the very show Carol had created from nothing. The legal battle dragged on for nearly a year, draining her energy, her focus, and her spirit. When Joe Hamilton died in 1991, Carol didn't attend the funeral. She sent white flowers with this simple note, "I wish you peace." Later, she admitted something even more honest. Some wounds don't heal with time, they just settle. Carol Burnett spent her life making the world laugh. But behind the curtain, these 5 men left scars she never showed on camera. After hearing all of this, which betrayal do you think cut her the deepest? If you want more untold stories from Hollywood's brightest legends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below.